Now let's start talking about volunteering as a community resource. Well, my experience as a volunteer in caring for the dying began more than 20 years ago, inspired by Sogyal Rinpoche's Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. At that time, there was no association offering a lay spiritual approach in Italy, while most of the people I knew were not necessarily Catholic or simply religious. So I started alone, beginning with my father, and then relatives, and then friends, neighbors, and friends of neighbors, and neighbor of friends, and so on. Years later, in 2001, with some other friends, I founded Tonglen, a Tibetan word that means giving and receiving, a lay charity that operates in the field of death and dying, that is recognized as such by the Regional Register of Charities. Its status allows its members to care for the sick in public structures, including hospitals. In those years, the medical technology developed more sophisticated machines, as you know, and some of the most brilliant Western neuroscientists began to investigate neuroplasticity, which is the power of our brain to change according to the kind of stimuli it receives. Their studies, still increasing and expanding nowadays, as you know, coupled with the most recent discoveries in the field of quantum physics, form one of the two roots of the method I called ECEL, empathic care of the end of life. The other root, equally important, behoves to the traditional Tibetan science of death and dying, which includes one of the most extended studies on death and dying ever produced on our planet, and a complete body of meditative practice that are part of the Tibetan training of the mind. Tonglen mission involves two main fields. Volunteers take care of the dying according to this method, and the association offers a complete course on ECEL both to professionals and to people that simply want to learn how to deal with their own death or the coming death of a friend, or need clues to overcome their bereavement. Before describing this approach in very few words, due to the short time I have, I would like to briefly explain how you become part of the team. Our carers are trained in a set of meditation practices called Practice of Compassion, a traditional training to which we add some solid Western scientific support. It can take them 2 years to complete it. They spend about 1 year caring for the dying in a team with the regular supervision of a tutor. They also have regular team meetings for feedback on their cases and a monthly meeting of mutual support where carers are cared for. When they feel ready, which can take 1 year or much more, they can be confirmed and able to attend the dying and his family together with some equally confirmed colleagues, without the continuous presence of a tutor, but definitely not without supervision. That is given by the whole team of 30 persons, all of them reading all reports of the different cases. Now, how does empathic care of the end of life work? First, as neuroscientists like Tanya Zinger show, when you are trained in compassion, your brain changes accordingly. 2, as the traditional huge body of studies of Tibet on death and dying shows, the dying person becomes more and more empathic. Hence, 3, if our carers become able to enter at will in a state of quiet peace and compassion, the dying naturally tunes in, and that's it. Easy to understand, isn't it? A little less easy to do, as it requires discipline and dedication. You really need to master this state to remain stable, capable of empathic listening, and quiet, also in difficult situations, like when you enter a house where death is close. You cannot isolate the dying from the dynamics of his family, so you extend your care to them all and often to their doctors and nurses. A great stability, a great capacity of empathic listening is required. In exchange, I have seen that when I go and teach this approach in hospitals and hospices, so that the personnel themselves become carers in empathic care of the end of life, their burnout disappears. Why? Humans are empathic, and the huge effort they usually do to defend themselves from the suffering of others is against their nature. Give up to this, and the burnout is cut off at its very root. Two studies showing the relationship between training in ISEL and hospital personnel's burnout granted myself and Tonglen Association a national award for medical humanities. Now, Tonglen is volunteering as a community resource. Our caring service is completely free of charge. We start to support a person and her family at the moment of their inauspicious diagnosis and stick with them wherever they go, hospital, hospice, home. Our method is solidly scientific and traditional, and the Tibetan practices we use are easy to be adapted to the religion or lack of religion of the dying person. Our own carers come from different walks of life, and none of them had converted into a Buddhist. As the Dalai Lama said, these practices are all human beings' heritage. Come and take them as they are yours. Don't become Buddhist, please, but use them well. And if you are a Christian, become a better Christian. If you are a Jew, a Muslim, become a better Jew or a Muslim. Hospital departments in which ISEL was taught became a symbol of excellence and highly rated in the patient feedback. In 2013, ISEL became a postgraduate master degree at the Third University of Rome. In this last day, I've been working with these first students on the last details of their final dissertation, and in a few days, they will have their final post-graduation certificate, an appropriate academic title, which will allow them to go and teach in institutions like hospitals, hospices, and university. This is the first time it happens in this country, and I find so auspicious that it happens almost in the meantime as this event in Israel. My hope is that ISEL, empathic care of the end of life, might expand in Italy as well as in other countries for the benefit of all the sentient beings.